when did I feel like when did I hire my first agent? I mean, my first assistant, and when did I feel like, right, my first assistant, and when did I feel like I needed it? So I hired my first full-time, part-time, she's part-time assistant. All my assistants have always been part-time, by the way. I hired my first part-time assistant when I was 8 months in the business, okay? 8 months in the business. And the reason, and I always tell my students, you will know when you need an assistant. You will know. And I had this, it was overwhelmed. Okay, anybody ever felt overwhelmed? Now sometimes you get overwhelmed and then you get underwhelmed. It's feast or famine for some of you guys. So you got a lot going on and then you don't have much going on, right? So here's what I always say about this assistant thing. There's a lot of ways to do it. The first people that you ever hire are admin people. Okay, that's your first hire. You know, your second hire is a buyer agent. And then your third hire is listing agent. And then your other hires will be, it would be derivatives of this, okay? But just talking for where you guys are right now, and what I say by first hire, that doesn't mean that you hire an admin and then you hire a buyer agent. You might have 3 admins before you ever hire a buyer agent, because they're constantly taking stuff off your plate. Does that make sense? Here's the thing, though. In order to justify, and in my book, just so you guys know, in the book, I have a whole section on building your team, and I have the compensation, because a lot of people want to know, how do you pay them, you know? So I have 5 compensation models for your admin. It's chapter 20, your first hire, an administrative assistant, and I go through the 5 different compensation models, the 5 different options of how to pay those people. But what I would say, though, is if you don't have a steady pipeline, okay, that's the key to every one of y'all's business, is a steady pipeline. Let me say it again. It's a steady pipeline. Okay? When I was in the music business, it took me 9 months to get a paycheck. So when we put an artist in the studio, it was 9 months before we got, received revenue, because we had to record the album, and then we had to do a lot of marketing, just like a movie. You spend all your money on the front end, and then you have box office. But they might have started spending money on the movie a year ago, and then you try to make your money back. So in real estate, you must imagine my thrill when I got in, and I was like, I can get paid in like 3 months. Like if I get a listing and it sells in 30 days, and then I get paid in 30 days. Wow, to me that was like phenomenal. But what I also had to couple that with was a pipeline. So I knew that early on, and this was within 8 months in the business, I knew that I had to have 18 listings. That was my number. I always had to have 18 listings in order to always have closings. Okay? ABC, always be closing. So in order to do that, I had to have a pipeline. Because if you have 3 listings come in, 3 listings sell, then you don't have anything for 3 months. That's what we call feast or famine. And when you're in feast or famine, it's hard to have somebody that relies on you for a paycheck, right? So what you've got to do there is you pay per deal. Okay? PPD. That's not a real thing, but sometimes I do that when I'm teaching. Just makes me look smart, right? A PPD. Knolly said we need PPD. I don't know what that is. But a pay per deal. You pay per deal. So you pay a person $250 to close your deals. Okay? Now, truthfully, when you're in feast or famine, you don't want to pay anybody nothing, because you want that $250 for yourself. But what's really happening is you're robbing yourself and you're robbing your family. Let me say it again. You're robbing yourself and you're robbing your family. You're robbing your family of the time that they can have with you, okay? And you're robbing yourself of other production that you could be doing, of producing. And you're saying to yourself, I'm worth $12 an hour, or I'm worth $15 an hour, or whatever it is that you would pay. Okay, so I always recommend, and the pay per deal is going to look like something like $250 to $295, somewhere maybe $350. Depends. It's a transaction coordinator that just closes on your transactions per deal. Okay. Now at some point though, you're going to get to the point where, like for me, it was when I had at least 10 listings all the time, I needed an assistant to help me. And my assistant did everything. I mean, everything. Because I got really good at delegating. At first, you'll be very bad at delegating. Because, it's like, do you need help, Knolly, putting that in MLS? Oh, no, nobody puts it in MLS the way I do. I'm real good at putting it in MLS. Well, can I create the flyer for you? Oh, no, I'm the best at making flyers. Look how I do my flyer. And you'll get to the point, though, where you realize nobody cares. They just don't. They don't care that you did the flyer this way versus that way. I mean, it's got to look nice, right? But at the end of the day, creativity has many hats, and it doesn't matter if it's your sometimes it's just ego. Like, I do it all. I'm the one-man show. So, but when you hire a person, when you get to the point where you say, I've got 4 hours a day of work, I actually have work, answer the phones and whatever else is going on, then you could say, okay, I'm going to pay that person $14 an hour, or whatever you decide to pay. I use my Outdesk. So I have 2 virtual assistants that live in the Philippines, and they work through my Outdesk for like $9 an hour or something like that. And I've had one guy for 4 years, and the other gal I've had for 3 years, or the other, maybe it's 4 and 5. Anyway, they're the first people I've ever hired, and they're still with me. Let me give you an example. My first assistant that I ever hired, she had these are people I like to hire. Gary Keller. I don't know if y'all know this. I was somebody asked me about my real estate history. I started with RE/MAX. Within a few years, I became one of the top 20 RE/MAX agents in the state of Texas. Okay, big state. I was one of the top 20. I went to Keller Williams. I was recruited to Keller Williams by Gary Keller. Okay, they knew I was number 7 in the city. There was about 9,800 agents in the city of Austin. I was ranked number 7 by Austin Business Journal based on my production. I was number 7 out of 9,800. So when that happens, when you get those of you that have been in that place, top 10, top 20, you start getting some interesting type recruiting activities, such as Gary Keller wants to meet you. Cool. I've been using all this stuff for 5 years at RE/MAX. I like to meet him because I like the book he wrote, right? So I was kind of that kind of thing. But I was intrigued, and I joined Keller Williams, spent 10 years at Keller Williams. Now I'm at EXP, been there 30 days, only 30 days, brand new to EXP. Absolutely incredible, love it. So that's kind of my trajectory in the real estate space. But the first person that I hired, and Gary used to tell me all the time, you don't teach this stuff, but I still do, was a person that was retired. I love retired people. Okay, so this person that I hired, Barbara, was 62 years old when she started working for me. She just retired working for me, I think last year, maybe the year before. She was 75 or something. She was like, Knolly, I just don't feel like doing it. I was like, Barbara, it's okay. You can, So she stayed with me on my whole career. I hired her 8 months in, and she was with me pretty much my career. My second person that I hired that person about a year after I hired Barbara. That was at first I hired Barbara to do admin, and then I hired Morris to do admin on the outside. So he would do like signs and lock boxes and just take care of my inventory, customer calls, stuff like that. He worked with me till he retired. Carolyn was my third assistant. She's still with me. Okay, so my people just don't leave. I don't know if that's good. I don't know how to fire them or what, but we work well together. I make good hires from the beginning. And all the people that I've hired are still with me, if that makes sense, right? So as far as admin, except the ones that have kind of played out. And I did retire technically in 2015. And my definition of retirement is being able to do whatever you want to do, whenever you want to do it. That's retirement for me. Some people's like, I'm gonna be on the beach and just watching movies. I can't do that. I like teaching classes. If you call me and you want to sell your house, I've capped every year since I've been retired in real estate. I've been retired 3 years, but I've capped every year. In other words, I've sold enough real estate to cap. And those of y'all that know what that is. And it's like people are like, well, aren't you still working? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am still working, but I don't do any advertising, no marketing. I'm not doing all the stuff I teach because I'm not trying to build a big business anymore. I've done that, and I've had a great time doing it, But now it's more of me paying it forward and sharing what I've learned with others.